So welcome to today's class. On today's video, we're going to be dealing with installation of the invisible zip footer and then turning the neck facing around. So the first thing I had to do was to trace out medium gum stay for the center back. That's the area that will be covered by the zipper. This step we do it to avoid the zipper dancing after sewing. Some people use hardest gum stay and it's still fine. So I had to use a distance of 1 inch for this particular one because my zip allowance is just 1 inch. So I can actually choose to use 1.5 inches or 2 inches. After all, I'm going to cut it off later. So you just mark it all the way to the point where you want your zipper to stop, and then you cut it out under medium gum stay or even the hardest gum stay. The aim is that you want to prevent the fabric from stretching at all and then causing that dancing effect. So I'm going to cut two pieces of this, and I'm going to use one for the left and one for the right. So we're going to attach it using a very hot iron. So after attaching it, we start attaching our zipper. So I have to make a mark on the upper part with an arrow pointing upwards so that I don't miss the direction of the facing. So the part pointing upwards stays up. You know, the back of the gown is not exactly straight, so you just have to make sure you get it right and not to start altering the shape of the back. So after we're done attaching it using a very hot iron, I had to get a matching color of zipper and place on the main fabric. So if you notice, I had to start placing from the soft part of the zipper. There are two sides of the zipper. There's a rough side and there's a smooth side. So I had to place the rough side facing upwards, that's facing me, the wrong side on the wrong side of the fabric, and then the smooth side facing the right side of the fabric, that's facing downwards. So I started pinning. I ensured my zipper was not having gaps while pinning, because that's a very important aspect. A lot of people make the mistake of having gaps while pinning their zippers, and by the end of the day it ends up still giving a dancing effect, despite the fact that they already added hard gum stay to their zip allowance, which was supposed to initially prevent the dancing effect. So this is what you're going to have after pinning. I don't want any form of gaps. If I see any form of gaps, I'm going to loosen it and I'll repeat it. So right now, installing the invisible zip footer, the essence of first pinning is to run the first stage stitching. So we had to run the first stage stitching to hold the zipper together to the fabric. So after running that first stage stitching, it is very, very important. I don't just go ahead and start using my invisible zip presser foot first. I have to do my first stage stitching. And well, this is what it looks like. It's not exactly looking beautiful, but this is what it looks like while still having a lot of gaps. So we're going to go ahead and use a manual machine to install the invisible zip footer. So this is a manual machine and this is a normal manual machine footer. So I had to remove the normal manual machine footer and then install my invisible zip footer. So So this is the left and then this is the right, so it has two parts and it's adjustable. It has an adjustable knob, so if I want to move it to the right, I can just shift the adjustable knob, turn the adjustable knob, move it to any direction at all I want to work with. So we can now install the invisible zip footer. This video might just be live on my YouTube channel, and if you're watching it on YouTube, you can enroll for my online course on ready to wear office dresses using dart manipulation techniques. You can click on the link in the description box, or you can just contact the number on the screen to make inquiries on how to enroll for this course. The course is currently 5,000 as of August 2023, so probably by the time you see this video it might have increased. Okay, so after we're done installing our invisible zip presser foot, we'll go ahead and fix our fabric. So the part I installed now is the part that is leading to that is for the stitching of the left side. So you just put it here, and then you make sure that your needle is very, very, very close to the presser foot opening. That's one thing about using manual sewing machine presser foot. So in the course of this video, I'll also teach you how to use industrial machine presser foot to do it, so that you can be well versed in both. If you want to use any of the machines, you don't necessarily have to start looking for manual sewing machine if you have an industrial sewing machine. So now look, we have to open up the zip area. You don't just start stitching, you have to open it up with your hands, flatten it out. And when I'm talking about flattening it out, I'm talking about the left part of the zipper. Okay, like in this particular case, I'm stitching the left part of the zipper. This raised area, like the zipper teeth itself, you push it to the left so that it can flatten and you can see the roots, like the base, very well, because it's actually on the base you're going to be stitching on. You're not just stitching on the mere surface, because yes, we've run our first surface stitching to hold down the zipper. So the next stitching we're doing now, you can see where my hands are. You can just zoom in the video to see where my hands are. So I'm using my two fingers. I'm using my thumb and my index finger to hold it down, to hold the teeth down. So we've successfully stitched on that particular left. So right now it's time to stitch on the right part of the zipper. Like I said, I'm also going to still teach you how to use this with industrial machine presser foot. So if you want to learn that, keep watching this video to the end. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, you can click on the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. So I had to loosen the knob. So after loosening the knob, I just loosened the knob to enable me push the footer to the direction I wanted. So it's a bit tight because this is a very, very new presser foot. So I had to loosen, then push it gradually. So after pushing it, I've gotten it to the direction I want. So you insert your fabric and you start stitching. You just go ahead and keep flattening it out. You see how I'm opening into my hands? Okay, because you can't stitch this zip footer without opening that part with your hands. So you have to keep adjusting your fabric, you have to keep opening it, you have to keep working on it, you have to keep making sure that your stitches are going very well until you're finally done. So when you get to the terminal end of the zipper, we can now see what we have. We're now getting to the very edge of the zipper. We're getting to the point where we said we want our zipper to stop. Okay, so when we get to that point, we cut the thread and then we'll see what we have. So I had to now try repeating it using an industrial sewing machine. So I'm still going to show you how I installed this one. So the industrial sewing machine has a left and the right footer. So this is the right footer I had already installed before I started this video. So I'm going to show you the installation video, how you remove your original industrial sewing machine presser foot and install the zipper presser foot. It's just like a normal presser foot. The only difference is that it has this tiny opening on the right that kind of forces the fabric to sit on the right, like just they don't move, you know. It's like a police holding it together and preventing it from moving. So we just go ahead and stitch it to the point where the zipper should stop. So after stitching it, you can go ahead and back stitch, and that's it. So right now I'm going to take off the presser foot and then show you how to use how to remove the presser foot and then fix the other one. So you can see how neatly it looks after I stitched with an industrial machine. It actually looks pretty much the same after stitching it with the manual machine. Remember, I had already stitched with the manual machine. I had to swap to industrial for teaching purposes. So you loosen your presser foot from the left. So after you loosen your presser foot, this is my right presser foot with a tiny opening on the right. So I'm going to go over to get my left presser foot. Now this hole is to the left for this particular one. So you just create with your hand for a little while, then you can now use your screwdriver to tighten it. So this one works well for the left, so we go ahead and put in the fabric and then we start running our stitches all the way to the point where the zipper should end. So if you're new to this channel and you've not subscribed, do well to click on the subscription button. Okay, so can you see how neat it looks? Absolutely neat, absolutely flat. If yours is not this flat, then something is probably just wrong. It might just be that your zipper is dancing or something like that. So remember, we initially added gum stay to it, so we're going to start dragging out the gum stay. So just take your time and drag out the gum stay. But before you drag out the gum stay, you can just insert your normal presser foot, then now run your stitches just a little bit away from the part where the stitches from the zipper ended, just a little bit away. Then now run it up to the point where you want your slit to stay, because this outfit is definitely going to have a slit at the back. So your normal slit distance from your base, whichever one, it's actually up to you. So at this stage, I don't believe you're still core beginners, so you have the range you work with. I usually work with about 9 inches, so that's what I'm working with for this particular tutorial. So you take your time and cut off the excess threads. Like, take your time. You really need to take your time, because that's one thing about ready to wear. It has to be this English outfit. Like, it has to really look neat. Take your time to iron, take your time to cut off your excess threads. So right now I want to install the facing for the neckline. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up the zip area, then Then I'm going to use my pins to pin together and get to the shoulder, get to the center. I make sure that these core points actually join, these core points actually align, to avoid the situation whereby when I'm done there will be imbalance and all that, because I'm very particular about the balance. So we take it like this and then we get to the back. Make sure your zipper area is totally and absolutely open. Do not bend your zipper. This is how it should be. So we get it to this point and then we sew the round neck with 0.5 inches sewing allowance. So after sewing it with 0.5 inch sewing allowance, I had to notch, that's like cut through, using 0.5 inch intervals. You can see it. So I can actually go ahead and trim off this excess, because I think it's going to give me a bulky effect. I don't really like the bulky effect, so I can cut it down to 0.25 inches and then I'll start top stitching. So we top stitch the neckline. You just push the bulk towards the facing, then you run your stitches. I'm ensuring that my sewing allowance is moved towards the neck facing. So you start top stitching. I had to cut off the bulky area to avoid having bulk on my shoulder. So I eventually had to take off everything to make sure that I cut off practically everything. So after doing the top stitch, I had to flip over the facing to cover I didn't want it to be so bulky, so I had to go around to cut. So after flipping it over, I now had to run my stitches. The closer it is to your zipper, the better. If you can even run it on the old line you used in installing your invisible zip footer, the best. But if you can't, just shift a little bit to run it so that you would have neat stitches. So after doing it, I had to switch machines at this point. So make sure you're not getting to the edge. If you notice, I've not weaved this fabric at this particular stage, so this is for you if you don't have an industrial weaving machine. So you might not be able to weave immediately. So if you don't have an industrial a weaving machine, you just leave some of those allowances so that by the time you take it for weaving, that area can still be weaved. Okay, so by the time we turn it, this is what we're going to have. This part still needs some ironing, so we're going to iron it. We're also going to turn the other side. Remember, we've actually not taken out our medium gum stay. We're going to take time and drag that out so that we can have very neat effects on the inside. So you take your time and then cut off your excess threads and all of that. Then we'll cut off the bulk, like the bulk on the neckline area. So that's it. So I just tried taking off some part of the gum stay at this stage, so we'll still take off everything eventually. So after giving a slight notch to that zip area where we stitched on, the area we stitched on the from the neckline down to the zip area, we just had to turn over, because the essence of cutting off that extra is that we don't want a bulk. So I had to turn over. I wanted to see what the first look would be like, and this is what I'm seeing. You know, I told you the closer you stitch, the better. So you can just take it back to the sewing machine and stitch a little bit closer. So we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So I want to show you the side I've stitched and the side I've not stitched. So this is the side that has been top stitched and then the zip area turned. You can see how it looks, and then you can see how the other side looks. So you take your time and run through the other side. So now the next thing for us to do is that by the time we're done with the neckline and everything, we're going to go ahead and join the sides together. So remember that at the time of making this pattern, I told you that the hip measurement is going to be 40 inches. So you make sure you place the edges of the fabric together and then you stretch and join. This is not your regular fabric where you have a fixed sewing allowance. Let me put out a disclaimer. If you're joining a ready to wear outfit, if you're joining a ready to wear outfit,
but do not stretch too much. If not,
sewing
it's
allowance
going to be too tight on the body.
is not fixed like the regular sewing allowance of every outfit. If I'm using a stretchy fabric A,
will further
the
be
sewing
divided
allowance will
by
be different from stretchy fabric B for the same pattern, the same measurements and everything. So what I had to do at this stage was that after placing the hips together, because I usually get my measurement from my hips, so after placing it together, I'm starting my measurement from the edge of the tape